The restaurant was buzzing with laughter, clinking glasses, and the faint notes of a piano in the background, but for Adrian Steele, none of it mattered. He sat nervously at a corner table, not because he was a billionaire CEO, feared and admired in boardrooms, but because tonight, he was just a father bringing his 7-year-old twins on a blind date. It wasn't supposed to be this way. So tonight, he wore a simple shirt, left his luxury car at home, and chose a modest cafe instead of the 5-star venues he normally frequented. If someone wanted to know him, it would have to be the man he was without the money. When she walked in, Adrian almost forgot to breathe. Her name was Clara, a woman with kind brown eyes that seemed to notice the smallest details in the room. She smiled warmly, not at him, but at the twins, who peeked shyly from behind his arm. Adrian expected hesitation, maybe even frustration, that a blind date included 2 children, but instead, Clara knelt down, looked the twins in the eyes, and introduced herself as if they were the most important people in the world. Emma giggled. Ethan loosened his grip on his father's hand, and in that instant, Adrian saw something he hadn't felt in years: a gentleness money couldn't buy. Dinner wasn't smooth at first. Ethan spilled his juice, Emma got restless, and Adrian's nerves showed. He feared Clara would leave, excuse herself politely, and never return. But Clara didn't flinch. She grabbed napkins, cleaned the table, and turned the accident into laughter. She cut the children's food into smaller pieces, told them stories about her little brother, and even shared her dessert with them without hesitation. Watching her, Adrian felt his heart ache. He was used to people who wanted to impress him, to win favors, to flatter his wealth. But here was a woman who hadn't asked a single question about his job, his status, or his money. All she seemed to care about was making sure his children were happy. Still, doubts gnawed at him. He had built an empire with walls around his heart, and trust didn't come easily. After dinner, when Clara offered to walk with them to the nearby park, Adrian almost said no, but the twins jumped with excitement, tugging at his sleeve, so he gave in. Under the glow of streetlights, Clara pushed Emma on the swings, while Ethan raced her down the slide, their laughter echoing through the night. Adrian stood back, hands in his pockets, watching the scene unfold. He never thought he'd see again since his wife was passing. It wasn't just the children smiling, it was him, too. But the challenge came later, when reality intruded. Clara found out who he really was. Not from Adrian himself, but through a mutual acquaintance who recognized him. A CEO worth billions, a man constantly in headlines, had been pretending to be an ordinary father. Hurt flickered in her eyes when she confronted him, and Adrian struggled to explain. He admitted he was tired of people chasing his fortune rather than his heart, tired of being a trophy rather than a man. He wanted someone who would see his children, not his bank account. Clara listened in silence, torn between betrayal and understanding. For days, Adrian feared he had lost her. The twins asked about her constantly, and each time, his chest tightened with guilt. He had tested her without trust, and now he might never get her back. But one evening, as he came home from work, he found Clara waiting at his doorstep. She held a box of cookies she had baked with the twins in mind and said softly, "You should have trusted me to choose you, not your money." Adrian's guarded heart cracked. He realized then that love wasn't about control or tests, it was about vulnerability. From that day forward, things changed. Clara didn't care about the mansions, the cars, or the empire Adrian owned. What mattered to her was the way Ethan laughed when she read him stories, the way Emma hugged her goodnight, and the way Adrian looked at her like she was the first light after years of darkness. The challenges weren't over blending lives, learning to love again, and facing judgment from those who questioned Clara's intentions, but together, they overcame them. In the end, it wasn't wealth that brought them together. It was a simple gestural woman kneeling down to speak to 2 children on their level, showing kindness when no one asked her to. That moment proved to Adrian what he had forgotten in his climb to the top. Love, in its purest form, was never about riches. It was about seeing people for who they truly were, and for a man who had everything yet felt empty, that was the one treasure he had been searching for all along.